The big game is fast approaching, but wait, you still haven't got your tickets. You've spent hours searching, but you're still confused about ticket prices. Time to stop searching. Visit ticketcompare.com. We compare ticket prices for all the popular leagues and tournaments for you. We work only with the most trustworthy sites, so you can have peace of mind when buying your tickets. Compare prices, buy tickets, get to the game. Ticketcompare.com. Buying tickets made simple.
Yeah, well, it had to change today. It was we got a little bit wet and cold out there, so I had the shower and everything today. It took a bit longer. It wasn't worth putting training clothes back on. Right, we're going to start with Roger.
Okay, well, kind way. First of all, Wayne Hennessy, can you clear up exactly what the nature of the injury was and if he's back in
We trained for the first time today. The injury was a simple back spasm. When I say simple, his back went into spasm during the time he was warming up, and it's not the first time it's happened either, I believe. It's happened to him 3 times before. Just very, very unfortunate. It happens on the day of a game during the warm-up. He missed the first 3 days of our training this week, but he was out there training today in a modified form, but I believe he's going to train fully tomorrow.
And is he back in contention, or seeing as he kept a clean sheet as a junior Sporoni?
Well, there's quite a stiff competition between the two of them always, so it's always something for me to resolve before games which one of the two I want to start the game, because they're both very competent, and Wayne Hennessy kept a clean sheet before, or 2 clean sheets I think before, no, he kept 1 clean sheet before Julian. Now Julian's kept 1, so they're keeping me on my toes when it comes to team selection. I
know that when Sam Allardyce came in here, the first thing he wanted to do was just tighten up the defence, stop conceding goals. He appeared to have done that in the last couple of games as well. And we spoke to Martin Kelly earlier, he was talking about the competition for places at the back as well. How reassured are you, confident that you know that you've got the personnel here, you get the organisation right, you can at least shore up the defence?
Yeah, I'm quite confident that the personnel here is good, and that we do have the wherewithal to certainly give ourselves a good chance of getting out of the situation we find ourselves in. But it'd also be nice if we could strengthen the squad in 1 or 2 areas, because the balance, when Martin talks about the competition for places, it is actually very strong in his particular area. It's extremely strong, but there are other areas of the field where the competition actually is quite weak, and so we've got to think about those matters, and hopefully in the coming transfer window put that right.
Outline who you be chasing, or particular areas?
No, not really. I mean, obviously this is something I discuss with the scouting department, and in terms of building profiles, and in terms of discussing maybe the areas where someone coming in could help us. Not necessarily always to take someone's place in the team. It can also be the fact that as the season wears on and the games pile up, you can't play with the same 11 week after week, and you need really good quality players to go in and replace them.
Just on that, the Black, obviously the clean sheets today, still struggling to score goals in numbers, certainly away from home as well. What do you put that down to? Well, is that something you can address, or is it just a matter of the players that are here hitting? Well,
it is hard to score goals away from home. I think all teams do find that. And of course, in the beginning, we had a horrendous record away from home. Not only were we not scoring goals, we were letting in a hatful of goals as well. So we've solved half the problem, in the sense we no longer let in a hatful, or we make it harder for teams to score against us. But it's not that we lack chances. It's not, we haven't got the clean sheets by getting 11 players behind the ball and just playing defence via attack. And with the opponents, for example, in both of our last 2 away games, I think it's been almost a 50-50 split in terms of possession, and that's the way I've seen the game from the sideline. And there have been chances in the game, so I suppose it's a matter of scoring that goal, which puts the debate to bed. All the time you don't score it, each game that goes when you haven't scored, the next press conference will be, that's another one you've not scored in, is it a problem for you?
Psychologically, what does it do for the team and for you? That first step is done, you climbed off the bottom of the table, been there since the start of the season, and now you look at the table and you're no longer
If I'm to be really honest, I don't know that it's actually made a difference to us. I suppose I'm not privy to the players' private conversations, but certainly as a coaching staff we've not really discussed that. we're looking, I suppose, longer term, in the sense that we know that to get away from the relegation zone, we've got to get closer to the middle of the table, and we're actually quite a long way from that. So it's, you know, I'm not dismissing the psychological value, and I'm happy that it might have that effect. But I've got to say that at the moment our task really is to make certain that we try to make certain that in every game we play we're capable of taking something from the game. Ideally 3 points, but when we're not good enough to take 3 points, we want to try and make sure we can take one.
Do you feel, looking at that table, though, that you're the team in that area with the momentum, bearing in mind where you started from, where you managed to rise to already, and the other teams around you worried about falling in, you're looking upwards?
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that, Roger. I mean, but that's pleasant, I guess. But of course, it doesn't take long before that momentum's lost. You know, it's hard to keep momentum going in the Premier League by winning or drawing and not losing games, especially when you are one of the teams at the bottom of the table. It's hard enough for the teams at the top of the table. So it's boring to say it, perhaps, and people might get bored listening to it, but it is quite simply a case of not losing any opportunity to work at your game on the training field, not losing any of the team spirit that you're trying to engender in the group, and then making certain sometimes that you get good at bouncing back after poor results, because everyone can bounce on from a good result. Not every team can bounce back from a bad result.
You'll be looking at the teams above you and seeing who the next ones you can sort of drag down and climb up. Of those, with Bournemouth have got a 5-point lead over you, you can reduce that to 2, and then they've got a really tough run after that. So how important is it that you sort of drag those other teams back down into?
Well, I don't often know what runs teams have got after they've played us, so it doesn't feature in my thinking, but it's pretty obvious that every game we play at home, it's got to be an opportunity for the 3 points. We've taken our 2 wins have come at home. And on the other 2 matches recently that we've drawn at home, we could so easily have one, because we played well enough and created enough chances to win the game. So we've got to believe in ourselves there, and we've got to be continually aware of the fact that this is an opportunity, and it's an opportunity that we can't spurn. But unfortunately, the teams that come here, they won't want to lose, and they'll be well organised and tough to beat, just like every opponent is in this league. So you can't take anything for granted, and you don't win matches by wanting to win them. That's the big problem. You know, people ask the question all the time, you know, is this an important one for you to win, and is this the one that you really need to help you move on? And of course the obvious answer to that is yes, but talking about it doesn't do it. It's got to be the performances on the field.
Just finally from me, obviously a big weekend for us, and the derby weekend on Sunday. Your former club coming up against one of your predecessors here at Crystal Palace. How big a job has Sam Allardyce got at Everton, not just in terms of the job he's taken on, but first and foremost dealing with Liverpool this weekend?
When Everton play Liverpool, it's a very big game, irrespective of who's the manager. So they're always hard-fought derbies. Sometimes so hard-fought that even players as well behaved and as professional as Steve Gerrard managed to get sent off. So that's what's ahead of both managers. Liverpool are in fine form, but Everton have won the last 2 games. So I think it just really sets up, or the scenario is set up for a really interesting game of football, which will certainly divide the passions of a passionate football city, and it'll be great, I think, for all the neutral Sky television viewers to watch that game.
All right, just a few from me. You mentioned Wayne Hennessy. Can you just clear up if there are any other injury concerns ahead of Bournemouth?
No, we're looking pretty good at the moment. We've had one player, James McCarthy, who had an early scare with a virus at the beginning of the week, but he trained fully today and will train tomorrow, so he's obviously recovered, which is good. Scott Dan's recovered from the problem he had. So the only players really we have out are Connor Wickham, of course, who's long term, and Joe Ward at the moment is still a doubt for the game, simply because he's felt his groin after that 3 matches in a week. So we've had to be very careful with him this week. so I won't know until tomorrow about the situation with him.
Is Damien Delaney back?
Damien Delaney, no. Damien had a very minor operation. He's here today, I see, and I think he'll be training fully next week.
And as Roger mentioned, we both spoke to Martin Kelly earlier. How impressed were you by his performance at the Hawthorns, and by how he's bided his time when chances have been limited so far?
Well, he's a super professional, that's what he is. He's not only a good player, he's a super professional. He's the type of player, Martin, that coaches dream of, really. Someone who's not only good at his job but never misses a day's training. He's always 100% professional in those training sessions and trying to do the very, very best he can do, and to follow the instructions, if you like, or team instructions as well as he can do. I had no hesitation to put him in. It was no surprise to me that he played well, and I'm really pleased for him that he played well, because, as you rightly say, he's had to wait a long time for that chance, because we have both Dan Tompkins and Mamadou Sakho. They are three very, very strong contenders for those two positions, and he's another one. But it's good to know that we have that strength in depth. It's also good to know that Martin can play in other positions other than centre-back, which is very, very useful. And as far as I'm concerned, he's the type of person who, if we're going to get out of the trouble we're in, his contribution between now and the end of the season will be enormous.
And just finally from me, you talked about identifying potential January targets, and you also talked about scoring goals being an issue. Do we take from that then that Palace's top target will be a striking action?
You can take whatever you like from what I say, really, but if you're asking me to say to you now our top priority next month, is it next month? Yes, is a strike. I'm not prepared to do that, one. And secondly, the identification of any talent that we bring in. At the moment, that's Doug Friedman and the scouting department are working very hard to narrow down, if you like, any options that we may have. And of course, it's also a matter in the January transfer window of clubs, sporting directors, owners, managers, thinking on their feet a little bit, because you never quite know what players will or will not be available, and you have to be ready, I guess, to, if the right person does become available, to be there to swoop. But what we will be logical in our approach. We'll be structured in our approach. The profiles of the players that we bring in will be carefully monitored, if you like, and I'm just hoping that we're not going to add to an already quite large squad of players, but what we're going to do, we're going to shore up certain areas where we think we could need strengthening, and make certain that we don't burden ourselves with extra players in areas where already the competition is very strong, and it's hard for me to keep everyone's interest alive when I can't play them on a regular basis. Cheers.
Right, just on that subject, let's say compare when you were at Fulham 8 years or so ago. Is the recruitment process in this division more difficult now than it was then, because of the inflated prices, the fact that people's scouting networks are so much better? Will this be more of a challenge to bring in the people you like this January than say it was when you were at Fulham?
I think there's a large element of luck involved always. My fortune at Fulham was knowing Breda Hangeland and Eric Nevland, from having worked with them very recently, both of those two players being available from their clubs and being able to bring them on board. So I think that the element of luck is always going to be there. The right person that you think is the man you need at a particular moment in time being available. And the other thing, of course, is making certain that the scouting department and you and your coaches are on the same page with regard to what can happen. The third part of your question, I think, is has it moved forward? I think everything moves forward. I think to compare 8 years ago in the Premier League at Fulham with what I'm doing at Crystal Palace here today would be a very foolish thing to do, because in 8 years everything moves on. It really does. I think it was Brian Clough in one of his magnificent quotes, which he doesn't get a lot of credit for, who used to say that if the stopwatch had not been invented, people would have told us that Jesse Owen ran faster than Sebastian Coe.
Right. With the home form being so much better than it was when you arrived, there was a real sense of pressure in some of those home games that Crystal Palace played. Do you feel that that's changed now, that the home match is an opportunity rather than a real pressurised environment?
No, I find it a very pressurised environment. I think that we are desperate to do better than we've been doing. We're desperate to give the fans the victories that we think their attendance and their support merits, and that the club deserves too. So, you know, we feel an enormous amount of pressure. We won't go into any game. I can't imagine, quite frankly, at the moment, that there'll be one of the 23 games where I don't feel the enormous pressure to get a result, and I hope that transfers to the players too, because the moment we take our foot even very, very slightly off the gas, we're going to be not only advancing, we're going to be going backwards. So everyone knows that. It's not a problem for me because I preach to the converted, but I don't think it's fair to say that because we've had a couple of results which have been more positive, we now feel confident and it's you know, something to look forward to and there's no pressure. That would be really, really wrong to say that. I hope there will come a day when I can go into a game with no pressure, because that will be the day when we're so far away from the relegation zone we can't possibly get relegated.
It's also you've made Bournemouth and Eddie Howe as well, because you know their progress in recent years has been incredible.
Yeah.
They're now in a moderately safe position in the Premier League. Is as an external watcher, is remarkable.
Well, I can certainly relate back to that because 8 and 7 years ago, or 7 and 6 years ago, if I'm to be in the 2009 and 2010 season, 2007, 2008 and 2000. Was it 8, 9 and 9, 10? The 2008-9 season and 2009-10 season, we played pre-season friendlies on both of those occasions against Bournemouth and Eddie Howe, and he was in the throes then of, you know, really making his mark in the managerial world, but certainly nothing like he has done since. But we saw then, taking a Fulham team to play friendlies there in pre-season, that the club was moving in the right direction. They had a good young coach with a good young coaching staff. The team was well organised, and really it's snowballed, of course, since then, and they've climbed up the divisions, and now they're not only in the Premiership, they're almost a very stable Premiership side. So we've got a big task on our hands on Saturday, and we know that the team we're going to be playing against will be well organised, well drilled. They'll know what the manager and his coaching staff want for them and from them, and we know they'll do it for them as well.